Well, hello. Today is Wednesday, November 6, 2019. This is Angela Hooper-Menifield with your HR moment from Menifield and Associates. And today I am, it's Wednesday, so of course you guys have gotten used to me now. Wednesday is BNI day. We start really early. And then I also had an opportunity to do a little coaching at one of our local government facilities today. And whenever I go on these in-person visits, I always try to, put time in my schedule, come early, stay late, because people want to talk and sometimes they don't have an opportunity to do so. And in both situations, the common question came up. People were struggling with how to manage their time. We hear this all the time. Many of us have taken time management seminars. Well, first, let me just say, I don't prescribe to time management. I tell people all the time, you can't manage what you can't control, because manage deals with, if you look at the definition of the word, directing, constructing, you know, uh, manipulating things, or helping them function. So time we have no control over. Every day we get 24 hours. Every hour has 60 minutes and so forth. But what we can manage is our priorities, or manage ourselves. And so when we look at how do I get the most out of my day, or whatever that time is that's allotted to me, there are a couple of things that I have personally found useful, and so I'll share those things with you. So the first thing is, take a minute and really analyze and look at what are you doing with your time. There's the Pareto principle, right? And it talks about the 80-20 rule. And basically what it says is we get 80% of our production out of 20% of our effort. So looking at what it is you're spending your time doing can help you figure out how to best use your time. Again, you can't manage your time. You can only allocate it or use it. But what you can do is say, okay, these are the periods of day I'm going to use to do X and Y. So that's number one, figuring out what gets you the bang for your buck, or what is your highest utilization. Another thing that's been really beneficial for me is figuring out when am I most productive. So, for instance, I tend to be very creative sometimes. I like to write, I like to brainstorm. But there are times a day that that's not really good for me. So for me, it's those quiet times. It's either the first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon. And so if I know that's when I'm at my best version of me, I should schedule those creative duties that I have to do, or creative chores, around the time that I know I'm most creative. So if you're a morning person, try to, get that bang again in the morning, because that's when you're most productive, most effective. Because in the afternoon, if it takes you twice as long to read something, then perhaps the afternoon is not the time to read. That's the second thing. The third thing for me that has helped is looking at how did I really spend my day? Like, what were those time wasters, or time drainers, as I call them, right? Things that just really netted me very little. So if I find that it netted me very little, or, I do get on social media, I'm a part of many groups, organizations, and part of my responsibility is to post, connect, and, give comments. But I have to be transparent. I can get caught up in that. So I can start posting in a couple of groups and pages that I manage and or am a facilitator in. And the next thing I know, I spent 30 minutes on Facebook. 30 minutes I didn't have, right? I went to post in a particular group and then saw something that grabbed my attention. So being cognizant of what are the time drainers, that can also help us. And if you know certain things can be that, then set a timer on your phone or something and say, hey, I'm only going to spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever that is on social media, watching TV. If I walk away from my desk and visit with a friend, because sometimes that can be a time consumer, right? But setting timers and being cognizant of what are those things that I get caught up in that I end up getting, slipping away. Another thing is figuring out, what can I delegate? Like, what are the things that I'm doing that someone else can do anywhere from 80 to 85% as good as me? Now, see, that's a hard one for many of us, because we think, we're the best to do whatever that is. No one can do it as good as we can. And so oftentimes we don't delegate. But the question I have for you, does it have to be 100% every time? And if it does, because some things do, can you edit it or up level it a whole lot quicker then you can do it from start to finish. So in other words, I tell people all the time, I can edit a document a whole lot better than I can do one from creation. So if there's something that I'm trying to prepare in a written form, maybe someone else knocks out the first couple of drafts. They do their best version of it and then they give it to me. And then many of you may have seen there are some videos that have circulated over social media for years, and then trainings for time management, and they talk about the big rocks, right? And so to give you a visual of what that looks like, what it is they talk about the things that consume our time, the things we have to do. So they'll have a container and they'll put a bunch of little rocks in there first. And then they'll come back and try to put the big rocks in. Well, what happens is the big rocks won't fit at this point, right? Because the little rocks are so oddly shaped and in position that they're taking an exorbitant amount of space. Then they come back with this same illustration and they put the big rocks in first. Then all the little rocks fit around it. And so the point of this analogy is to do the important things first. And so just as I told both of the coaching appointments I had today, right? What are your big rocks? For some people, it's their spiritual activities. They want to read their Bible. They want to pray and meditate and things like that. Or, Quran or whatever it is that they read. Or maybe they have a daily devotion. But if that's really important for you, then do that first, right? Start your day that way. Your family should be a big rock, right? And that doesn't matter if you're married or not or have kids or not. If you have family, whether that's the family you've adopted because you're so close to them, or that's your biological, they're important. Those are your big rocks. Find time in your day to celebrate them, value them, and let them know that you love them. For many of us, or for all of us, it should be, but for some of us, it's a little bit more of a focus. Maybe it's your health and fitness. So again, if that's a priority, that's a big rock. It should be scheduled. You should get it done. Then what are the little things, buying tickets to go to the movie, planning this vacation, working on this project, brainstorming over here, yada, yada, yada. Well, those little things, then you fill them in around the big rocks. So for those of you who say, yeah, I just really got to figure out how to manage my time better, let me first just again say, you're not going to do that because you cannot manage time. Time is consistent. It stays the same. It shows up the same way every day. 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, right? So you're not managing time. What can you manage and control? You and what you do with the time you have. Am I naive? Do I think that we all have the same amount of time? Of course not. There are life demands, situations, commutes and things like that can eat away from our day. But my question for you is then what do you do on those commutes? For years, I would shuttle to the St. Louis airport when I lived in Columbia, Missouri. It took me 2 hours minimum to get to the airport, but I was on a shuttle. What was I doing with those 2 hours? Now, often I was catching the shuttle at 2:30 in the morning, so it wasn't a read type of time of day. But if there were some shows or things that I wanted to watch, let's just watch them on Hulu or on demand or whatever and get that out of the way. So now in the evening, when I do have time or it's daylight or it's more stable to write or work, I'm working. But my point is, if I know there are things that I want to do, whether they're pleasure or necessity, get those out of the way when it's feasible. Some of us need to check in with people and be more accountable. And I hear people say all the time, I meant to call you. Do you drive? Are you in your car? Can you make some of those calls while you're driving? Can you check in with those people you love and spend time with? If the answer is yes, then do that then. Now, some of us, being introverts and more reserved, at a certain time of day, I don't want to talk to anybody, so maybe I need to shut it down. But that comes with that self-awareness and knowing what you need. At the end of the day, the point of this is this. You have to figure out how to manage the time. Faux pas, forgive me. You have to figure out how to manage yourself and the time that you have and what you're going to do with it. So again, what are our takeaways? Big rocks, get them out of the way. Analyze that 80-20, 20% of your efforts give you 80% of your results. What are those things? What can you delegate? And then what are the drifters? What are the things that pull away from your activity that you get caught up in and you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I've spent a whole hour doing this. By being aware of where your time is spent, what's important to you, what you value, you will then become a person who does a better job of of doing the things that matter, taking care of your priorities, and again, taking care of the big rocks. So again, I won't say that you managed your time, but you managed you to the best of your ability. And last but not least, my coach helped me to remember this phrase: good, better, best. Maybe the best thing I can do when I look at my calendar is work out an hour, and then maybe better is 30 minutes, and maybe good is only 15. So also have mercy with yourself. Don't expect perfection, right? You may plan some things, they may work out, they may not. So operate off of the policy of good, better, best. Love yourself, be merciful to yourself, and have a great day. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching and your likes. I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Angela Hooper-Menifield from Menifield Associates, and this has been your HR Moment. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.